The Design Commission was set up in 2002 by the Welsh Assembly Government to promote high standards of quality design throughout Wales. So it was that broad and that ambitious, really, huge remit. Similar, of course, to CABE in England, the Commission for Architecture and the Built Environment. And we also have a sister organisation in Scotland, A&DS, Architecture and Design Scotland, and one that's just starting in Northern Ireland. So all 4 countries of the UK now have at least the beginnings of their own design commission, and we're often referred to as a design watchdog or as an advisor on design standards. We like to think we are independent. You know, we comment freely on, for instance, on buildings that are commissioned by the Assembly, so it's not as if we're constrained in any way. The interesting thing about the Wales Commission is that it's always taken the remit for sustainable development very much to heart, partly because of the Government of Wales Act, you know, which set up the Assembly and had as its remit to promote sustainable development. So we had that legal hook there to be able to hang our work, our SD work onto. And I've been running design review for the last 3 or 4 years now, 4 or 5 years now, and every scheme that comes in is interrogated on its sustainability credentials, as well as design, you know, urban design, context, and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, great. Let's talk about the Lammas project. I mean, what was the main message from the design review about the Lammas project?
Well, we were very excited to see the Lammas project at Design Review. It's our first community self-build scheme that we've reviewed, and for me that was a bit of a milestone because I've, you know, been very involved in the self-build movement through CAT and run regular self-build courses. So that was great. That was fantastic, and I was really pleased that the rest of the panel shared that enthusiasm too. It wasn't just me. So I think the panel used words like, you know, inspiring, innovative, exciting to describe the project, and we very much wanted to support it, and we very much wanted to see it succeed. I think where the panel had some difficulty was, you know, these are professional designers, we are the Design Commission, and it was the lack of kind of intentional worked out design language in the documents that I think most disturbed the panel. Disturbed not in the sense of, you know, you must have an architect because, you know, architects are great, but disturbed us in the sense that we didn't want to see a reason that it might fail not being addressed at the beginning. The panel really liked the architect design building that you have, the community hub, and we'd like to see, you know, more of that thinking inform the other domestic developments, and possibly an element of standardisation we thought would help. Now we know you're all rugged individualists, and you know you're building to an expression of yourselves, and that's fantastic because that's where the commitment and the stamina comes from. But we just thought that, yeah, an element of standardisation would help in terms of buildability and costs.
We have kind of taken your message and we've kind of set up our own kind of design review system involving architects already. Yeah. We're also kind of, yeah, we've wholly kind of taken on board your recommendations and built into the Lammas proposal systems to implement that. Yeah, so, you know, we're really happy with that. And I think you're right, it's really important that it works.
It is really important that it works. I mean, I had a really good afternoon up there with Simon, you know, walking around the site. But as he was telling me about his earth-sheltered house, and I was saying, oh, you know, how are you going to get a concrete truck up here? And he was saying, no, it's not, it's going to be straw, and, you know, and it's just, there's so many alarm bells ring when you think of straw bale against earth.
Yeah,
that you can see might lead to, you know, future failures. It's not.
Well, I guess,
so we just had an interesting conversation about that, and it was quite interesting because normally I would have been the way out person saying, you know, everything's got to be straw bale and clay, but you've also got to look at functionality and what you're asking the material to do.
Well, let's take it back. Let's start really simple. You know, why sustainability? Why do we need to be sustainable?
I just can't begin to answer that really. I mean, I can answer it in terms of, you know, rising carbon levels and ecosystems and habitats and global warming, but that's such standard currency now. I suppose my worry is that it's become so accepted and fashionable in a way that it will, you know, that will peak, and other concerns will overtake it, such as the economy and you know, sort of right-wing political trends that we're seeing emerging at the moment, and climate change and sustainability will kind of become yesterday's issue. I think that's a real worry in the cycle of news and media that we have. But why we need it, I mean, can't begin to answer that. It's just obvious.
I'm aware of that. So, okay, coming from that then, what do you feel are the main obstacles to sustainability?
I think there's still a lack of understanding about the real issues and the effects of not taking action now. I think people are still in a kind of time bubble about you know, the fact that they're not going to be too affected in their lifetimes. There's the whole consumerist element, you know, wanting things to get better. At the moment, things are not getting better, but that's just bringing in a lot of other constraints in terms of costs. You know, we've had very good arguments made at a government level as to the costs of acting now being much less than the costs of acting in the future, but the costs of acting now are still actually greater than not doing anything. So getting that commitment to taking increased action, whether it's at the level of an individual developer or the level of a policy maker, is going to be more difficult in these challenging economic times, I think. So that's certainly a major constraint. So lack of understanding, the culture not quite being entrenched, and costs, I think, are the important ones. And
so, I mean, listening to you speak about the policies that the Welsh Assembly is putting into place, do you feel that there's a real political will now to embrace sustainability?
I do. We've got a very strong minister. We've actually got a minister for sustainability, which is pretty amazing. That's only just happened for the first time. No other UK government has got one. And she's very committed. She really is. You know, I've heard her speak, and she's very convincing, and she has gone for commitments and policies which many of us might have thought, oh, you know, that's too ambitious, we're never going to do that. But she's doing it. She assures us that she won't blink, that she will work with anyone who wants to make these changes, but she's not really interested in talking to people who tell her it can't be done. So she's very strong and determined. So I think the political will is there. It's just getting it translated, which is always the difficult bit. You know, a minister makes a statement, and then, or the civil service and people like us, I suppose, have to figure out how you actually translate that and get the buy-in of the industry, because, you know, we can't actually do it without the industry.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's a really clear picture. So yeah, is there anything more we can do then? You know, what more can we do to create the change that's needed?
Well, I mean, just keep on really. I think, you know, an important thing is to create exemplars, beacons, like Lammas will be, so that you know, and there are others like CAT, where people can see what is possible. And can maybe, at least on an individual level, you know, work out their own response to that in terms of affordability, but still, you know, high performance standards. I mean, the self-build movement and to some extent the social housing movement has always been in the vanguard anyway of the whole sustainable buildings thing. So just keep on, really. I mean, that is all we can ever do. But I think to have exemplars is extremely important. I really hope that Lammas will be one of those.
Okay, great. Thank you.